Good morning and welcome to the CurePSP Caregiver Conference. My name is Ileen McFarland. I'm honored to be here today to welcome you and participate in a program designed to help you as caregivers as you selflessly provide care for your loved one. I began my volunteer work with CurePSP approximately 10 years ago while living in Annapolis, Maryland. At the time, I served as a support group facilitator, a peer volunteer, and an advocate for both patients and caregivers. Presently, I serve on the board of directors, chair of the Patient and Caregiver Advocacy Committee, chair of the Sherry Levian Quality of Life Respite Fund, and facilitator for both the CurePSP National Caregiver Support Group, as well as the CurePSP Support Group here in Dallas. You know, originally this conference was scheduled to be held in person here in Dallas. With the onset of the COVID pandemic, the foundation was committed to continuing what was once our in-person support programs and events, which led to our new virtual option. We are looking forward to hosting this event in Dallas, and although initially we were disappointed, we are also pleased with the benefit this presented. The benefit being today, we may have attendees here that may not have been able to attend if this were an in-person event, even under normal circumstances. So, as you listen to the presentation today, you may notice that several of our speakers are from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. However, their expertise in techniques and self-care applies to caregivers no matter where they live. A little bit about my background. My late husband, Terry Watson, was diagnosed with PSP in 2007. I know all too well the challenges that you deal with daily, the stress and burnout you experience as you care for your loved one. During my journey as a caregiver, Terry had the best of care and a decent quality of life. That was I had to educate myself and never take no for an answer, and advocate, advocate, advocate. Terry and I made a pact when he was diagnosed that we would not let this disease control us, we would control it. As the years went by and the progression of the disease excelled, it was apparent that as strong and positive as I tried to be, I began to experience stress, burnout, sleep deprivation, and isolation. I never believed in such a thing as sleep deprivation until one time I fell asleep behind the wheel while driving my husband back from a doctor's appointment. Luckily, my husband realized what was happening and jolted me awake. I could have killed us both. Sleep deprivation is a real thing. Please be careful. We all know that those sleepless nights will pile up after days and days. And pretty soon, we don't even realize that we are suffering from the lack of sleep. CurePSP provided support not only for my husband, but also for me as a caregiver. I began to use their resources to better understand what I needed to do for myself to keep me sane and healthy. After my husband passed in 2012, I decided to continue as a volunteer for CurePSP, specifically to help others in our community and to share my experience as a caregiver with others in need. I'd like to talk just quickly about something that helped me a lot. And unfortunately, at the time, CurePSP did not have the respite program. We currently do have a respite program now. It's the Sherry Levian Quality of Life Respite Fund. That fund is available for people who cannot otherwise afford to hire help to help with them to get respite and to help with their loved one. You can access that fund or the application to apply for that fund on our website. Additionally, we meet as a committee once a quarter. We've had two of the family members of the people that donated, the generosity of the families that donated to this fund on that committee. And we grant awards up to $1,250 to families in need. Please don't hesitate to use that fund. I know that we all reach a point where we're frightened that we don't have that financial support. We don't think we can hire caregivers. I certainly couldn't, but you know what I did? I went to the ALS organization, and I also went to the FTD organization, and they provided me respite funds. So our foundation, the board of directors, after receiving our generous donation from our donor, we set this fund up to serve you. So don't hesitate to use it. You know, sometimes we fail to recognize the effects caregiving can have on our minds and bodies. Today's program was designed to provide self-care techniques that will help you become empowered and inspired to live a healthier and less stressful life. Our agenda today will provide tips and tools that will help you cope with whatever negative effects you may be experiencing. We will cover a wide variety of subjects, such as resources available to you as a caregiver, including nutrition, meditation and mindfulness, stress management, and community support. We also have board representatives from the MSA Coalition who will discuss living with or caring for a loved one with multiple system atrophy. We at CurePSP want you to know that you're not alone. So many times I remember feeling that way, but I had that foundation to fall back on. I knew that if I needed something, I could ask them and they could steer me into the right direction. We're here to help you through these challenging times. A few months after my late husband was diagnosed with PSP, I was fortunate enough to be living in an area where CurePSP Family Conference was scheduled. How lucky was that? For me, that was the beginning of our journey. In retrospect, without the knowledge gained during that conference, I have no idea how I would have had to navigate my way through the years to come. Tomorrow, we hope you can attend our family conference, but today is your day of retreat and respite. So sit back and enjoy. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Gregg Felice, who joined our foundation in late January of this year as the Director of Patient and Carepartner Advocacy. Gregg, who lost his own father in 2004 of PSP, has worked in healthcare for 25 years. He received his master's degree in social work and a bachelor's degree in psychology. Over the years, he has helped patients and families cope with the stress and impact of managing a difficult diagnosis while offering support and counseling services. We are so fortunate to have him as a member of our CurePSP team. So please welcome Gregg Felice.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks, Ileen, for your kind words. You are an inspiration to us all. I am deeply honored and privileged to be here with you today. As Ileen mentioned, my dad passed a PSP in 2004, and I know how proud he would be. Many of us involved with CurePSP have traveled this journey. Although every story is different, we are here to help guide you and support you through this journey. CurePSP is a group of dedicated, passionate people who have come together to offer their support, knowledge, share their experience, and help others who face these devastating diagnoses. My hope for today is that you may find some comfort, some useful thought, some moment of relief, or some benefit just knowing that you are not alone in this journey. Next slide, please. To love someone fiercely, to believe in something with your whole heart, to celebrate a fleeting moment in time, to fully engage in a life that doesn't come with guarantees. These are risks that involve vulnerability and pain, but I am learning that recognizing and leaning into the discomfort of vulnerability teaches us how to live with joy, gratitude, and grace. Next slide, please. So this is a very exciting opportunity to be able to share all this information with you today. First, I will cover the network of support. We have a comprehensive list of support services and resources to assist you throughout this journey. I'm very excited about what we've accomplished during this pandemic and the incredible dedication of our staff and the tremendous commitment of our volunteer network. We offer supports for patients, caregivers, adult children, disease-specific groups. Wherever you are along this journey, we have resources and supports for you. We also have a whole host of educational programming and webinars that I will tell you about. I will also introduce you to our Centers of Care, a national network. One of our crown jewels are the types of services that we support at CurePSP, and so happy to be able to offer is the Cherry Levy and Quality of Life Respite Fund. Ileen touched on that earlier, and I'm going to provide a little bit more information about that program to you. In addition to the Brain Bank donation program, we also have a vast library of educational materials. Next slide, please. The mission of CurePSP is built upon 3 pillars. Care. We provide education, support, and support for patients and families and caregivers. Consciousness. We are doing all we can to educate and increase awareness of these rare diseases, which will lead to earlier diagnosis and ultimately find a cure, which is what our research funding programs are aimed to do. We have made incredible strides towards finding a cure, and CurePSP remains at the center of this effort. Next slide, please. CurePSP has a fantastic core group of volunteers dedicated to helping you. Many of them have been on this exact journey you find yourselves on. Our peer supporters are volunteers who have made themselves available to talk with you, share personal experience, and help guide you through this journey. Our support group leaders are volunteers who facilitate regular support group meetings for patients, caregivers, family, and those suffering from PSP, CBD, or MSA. And as always, our CurePSP staff is available 9 to 5 to assist you with any questions or concerns that you might have. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. We have easily accessible and downloadable lists of volunteers by region listed on our website on I Need Support. Our in-person support groups have been on hold due to COVID, and many are now offered virtually. Please don't let that stop you from reaching out and participating in a group that feels right for you. You can easily go to the CurePSP website and contact the group facilitators and peer volunteers listed in your geographical region. Being proactive about making a connection with a supporter can be the greatest gift you can give yourself. So please reach out. We are available and want to help. Next slide, please. We offer monthly and bi-monthly support groups regardless of location. We have many different types of support groups, some for patients and caregivers, caregivers only, adult children, disease-specific groups, groups along all stages of disease progression. We also offer a gender-specific support group should you feel more comfortable in that setting. We offer a PSP CBD 101 101 class, and soon we'll offer an MSA 101 class. We have also expanded our bereavement support services and offer a monthly bereavement support group. So please go to CurePSP.org. I need support to get a complete list of the resources and supports we have available. Next slide, please. Maintaining your wellness and personal well-being is more important than ever when you're a caregiver for a loved one, especially in a pandemic. Please take advantage of this new program, Wellness Wednesdays. We launched our first Wellness Wednesday episode this past November 4th with Dr. Michael Breshich, a doctor of physical therapy, with a great episode on introduction to seated Tai Chi. Later on today, you'll be treated to a meditation wellness exercise with one of our featured presenters, Fernando Coelho. So please go to CurePSP TV YouTube channel so you can access any of the current and future episodes of Wellness Wednesdays. We look forward to providing monthly episodes that will feature yoga, meditation, nutritional tips for patients, caregivers, and families alike. This is important. Taking a moment to focus on some attention to you and providing some self-care to yourself is so important. Building in time to focus on your personal health and well-being is an essential part of being a caregiver. Next slide, please. We are really excited and pleased to offer this incredible series of webinars called Ask the Doctor. This was created in the early days of the pandemic as a way for patients and caregivers to access some of the top neurologists in the country who specialize in PSP, CBD, and MSA. And this has been an amazing opportunity for patients and caregivers to speak directly to specialists like Dr. Golby from Rutgers University, Dr. Penteliat from Johns Hopkins. And on December 15th, we'll be featuring Dr. Miriam Skelroff from UNC Chapel Hill, who will be presenting on MSA. All of these recordings, these webinars are archived on our YouTube channel, so you can access those at any time. Next slide, please. Our Centers of Care network was established in 2018 to help families in the US and Canada find answers to their questions and access doctors who specialize in prime of life brain diseases. I am sure many of you can relate to this. Many of you watching have a similar story, having visiting many doctors who are unable to recognize or correctly diagnose your loved one. It is the aim of the Centers of Care network to work together to raise awareness about these diseases and collaborate with other healthcare professionals such as social workers, physical therapists, occupational therapists, and speech therapists. We currently have 25 centers of care and are looking to expand this network. So please head to I Need Support to view our interactive map and find a center of care near you. Next slide, please. Ileen touched briefly on this program, and it's truly one of the most important rewarding services CurePSP offers. Born out of the generous donations from the Levian family, we have been able to create a grant program to help caregivers get the relief they need so desperately. We know how expensive in-home care can be, and we know how heavy the burden of 24/7 caregiving can be. This program was designed to offset the costs of bringing in an extra set of hands when it's desperately needed. We have granted over 80 families respite grants. And if you feel your family could benefit from this program, please don't hesitate to apply. Next slide, please. Although this is a difficult topic for many, but one that is the cornerstone of finding a cure, I want to touch briefly on it here today, just to raise awareness around the fact that CurePSP is part of Bill, Florida. Not only is the donation of brain tissue incredibly valuable for the advancement of research, but it also may provide your family with the opportunity to receive a definitive diagnosis. Choosing to participate in the brain donation program is an honorable choice that a patient can make. It's a decision to help others, to make a contribution to science and get us closer to finding a treatment or a cure. Next slide, please. We have an extensive list of great educational materials and resources available to you. The CurePSP 2020 guidebook is without a doubt the most comprehensive, well-written, informative resource for people living with prime-of-life neurodegenerative disease. The emergency grab-and-go document was a document created out of the pandemic. Oftentimes, caregivers could not be with their loved one, could not advocate for them should they need to emergency room visit. This document provides healthcare professionals with all the pertinent, relevant medical information about your loved one, along with the definition of PSP, CBD, and MSA. It lists your contacts, your emergency contacts, your loved ones, describes your loved one's own needs and their levels of being able to participate in activities of daily living. We also have a vast library of educational pamphlets and brochures created by Diane Breslow, a social worker who has spent her career in assisting patients and families in prime-of-life neurodegenerative and movement disorders. Just recently completed and available very soon will be 2 brochures, one on talking about your diagnosis of PSP, CBD, or MSA, and the other on talking with and supporting someone diagnosed with PSP, CBD, and MSA. Next slide, please. I want to thank you for being here today. My hope is you find this program helpful and that you know you are not alone on this journey. We are here to offer support, care, and guidance. I also want to thank all the incredible professionals who have volunteered their time and to share their knowledge and expertise over the next 2 days. Thank you to CurePSP and all those responsible who have worked so hard on bringing this 2-day conference to you. And please note that if there is anything that I can do, don't hesitate to reach out and contact me or any of us at CurePSP. We are here to help, and we want to help you along this journey. So thank you again. I hope you get some pleasure out of this conference coming forward for you today. And thank you again for being here.
Hi, this is Jacqueline Zendrian, Vice President of Events here. I'm coming in as the quote-unquote voice of God. So this is the Q&A portion of the event. So if the audience has some questions for our speakers, now is an excellent time to drop those in the submission box. But right now, our audience is still waking up, still feeling a little shy. We only really have one question, but it's really more geared towards an allied healthcare professional. So, I mean, I'll ask it anyway if you guys want to weigh in, but it would probably be good for probably Trina Neeser later in the day. Someone has asked, my husband was diagnosed with CBD in December 2019. He was able to walk at that time. In January, he woke up one morning and couldn't walk. He is still very alert mentally. Is there anything I should watch out for or expect in the future?
I don't know, Ileen, are you on there? I would just say
that's a huge question.
Yeah.
As we all know, we have to watch 24/7. These are progressive movement disorders. Not knowing exactly the patient and where they are, I would hesitate to say. The one thing I would advise a caregiver to do is to always be alert. Don't always hover, but to try and make sure that you have the resources available through a physical therapist or an occupational therapist to review your living conditions and the care that you're giving. So I hand it over to the professionals usually. Greg?
Yeah, I was going to say the same. Most of the time, what we do recommend is that if you don't already have some type of service coming in, to make a contact with the local visiting nurse service and ask for a occupational in-home assessment. This will be the best way to look at the layout of your environment, but also depending on if they've started any physical therapy, that's another option for you. But having somebody come in the home, do an assessment, both for PT and OT, would be really beneficial, I think.
Good answers, good answers. One of our Care Partner and Advocacy Committee members, Al Nixon, is on the line, and he has a great question. Could you kind of describe the contents of the Care Partner guidebook?
Ileen?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to go.
Oh, okay. No.
Certainly. The guidebook addresses almost every question that you could possibly have from the very beginning, from the time of diagnosis. You will have articles written that address by our Dr. Larry Golby and our scientific officer. That will be the medical part. And then it addresses physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. It gives you hints on, as the disease progresses, what you should look out for. And when it's time to, let's say your loved one is having difficulty swallowing, and you notice that and they're choking, or not being able to even swallow their saliva, it's time to contact your neurologist and set up a swallowing test. The other thing it does is it talks about caregivers. I wish I had the book in front of me. There is an entire section on caregiving, what you as a caregiver need to do to help yourself. There are a lot of tools and tips and as to how to accomplish that. We're going to be touching on a lot of that today, and how important it is to maintain a community of support, that type of thing. It also addresses the brain donation program, I believe the Sherry Levy and Quality of Life program. It's very comprehensive. To me, I wish I had that book when I was caring for my late husband, but today that book is like the Bible. It addresses so many aspects of the diseases, both all of PSP, CBD, and MSA. So I recommend that to everyone. You can go online and order it, or you can also read it right online. And print it out if you wanted to. So it's a very, very valuable resource. I hope I've answered your question.
Terrific. Thank you so much. And we've got 2 minutes left, so I'm going to give you one more question. Someone would like to know, how do you go about finding a good caregiver? One person has tried several agencies, and no one really has heard about PSP. So it's been hard to find help with COVID. What do you recommend?
This question does come up, and I think that it's very difficult, depending on where you live, what options you may have. If you're more rural-based, there's less options. But one of the things to do is to interview caregivers, interview the agencies that are coming in. If there is a connection there and you feel good about them, you can then bring them to CurePSP website and help educate them. We are also working on developing tools that will do just that, so that you would then be able to inform a caregiver the particular diagnosis and what that type of what they need as far as the type of care. So it's very important to have a connection. And if you don't, if you have options, then definitely interview and try to educate the caregiver coming in to help you. Hopefully we'll have more to be able to actually physically have developed to give to you for that education. But right now, educating them through the website would be a great option.
Can I add to that, Greg, also? Mm-hmm. When I was able to receive respite money and to hire caregivers, one of the things that I learned early on is they had never, of course, heard of these rare brain diseases. And I would simply ask them, are you familiar with ALS? And they would always say yes. I said, well, it's very similar to that. It's a movement disorder and it progresses quicker. And it has the same outcome in a lot of cases in terms of the symptoms as ALS. The other thing I would like to mention is that when I did have caregivers come in, I would be present at least for the first 2 or 3 times. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to make sure, and this is important, that there could be a relationship between my husband and the caregiver. If I saw that this was just a job that they were doing and that they were not engaging with my late husband, then I would ask that they be replaced. That's a very important aspect because your loved one's care is dependent on how that person relates to them. You've been doing it all this time and you know how you relate to your loved one, right? So you want someone else to have as much compassion and understanding. This one caregiver came in one time and started, "How are you, Terry?" And I'm like, "Excuse me, he can hear you. He's not deaf. He's okay." So it's just a way people are trying to interact. So that is very important. So thank you. That was a very good question. Thank you.
Great answers. Thank you so much for answering them and for starting the day off. And now we are on to our next session. Thank you, Ileen and Gregg. And everybody, please stay tuned for our next segment.